Now, in a few hours from now, the Brooklyn Nets will be tipping off against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And they won't be doing it here in New York. They'll be playing in Mexico City. It's the 25th anniversary of the first NBA games in Mexico, which is all good news for Mexico's Tourism Secretary Enrique de Madrid, who joins me now in the C-suite. Why do they do it? Why go down to Mexico to have a game that could be held here? In the same way, I suppose, that they go to London.
Well, we have been doing this type of events with the Formula One, also with the NFL games in Mexico. Mm-hmm. So we have been branding Mexico and matching the Mexico brand with brands like the Formula One, with the Basketball Association. I mean, it's something good. It's something that helps Mexico to be on the top of mind of people and then help us to bring more tourists into Mexico.
Your tourism industry, it's one of the most important parts of the economy. And yet it's also extremely fragile in many ways now, not only from the east and the west coast, but buffeted, of course, by potential border disputes with the United States. How worried are you?
Well, first of all, just to remember your audience, that we receive close to 40 million tourists a year in Mexico. We're the 8th most visited country in the world. We were number 15 just 4 years ago, and we're now number 8. And it's likely that we can become number 7. So this is a sector that has been booming.
Of that 40 million, how many come from the United States?
At least 60% of them.
Exactly.
At least 60% of the people come from the US. But 10 years ago, it was even higher than that. So we're also receiving not only Americans, which we're happy, very happy to continue to receive. We're receiving people from Argentina, from Colombia, from China, from Japan, from France, from the UK.
Before we come back to tourism, let us just talk, though. You must be worried. The whole Mexican government must be concerned. You've got elections, crucial elections next year. NAFTA looks like it is falling apart. And we are now entering that window where if a deal is not done on the modernization of NAFTA, by next year it will be too late.
Well, I think we should all be concerned because in the US, there's already 6 million of jobs that are unfilled. They cannot be filled up because some of the people here are not matching the type of requirements and qualifications that are required for those jobs. 11 million jobs in the US are today dependent on NAFTA from Mexico and Canada. So you could be losing 11 million jobs in the US. So we should both be worried because, of course, it's very relevant for us, but it's also very relevant for the US to continue to be competitive in industries like, for example, the automobile industry, in electronics, and also in farming.
Is Mexico prepared for NAFTA to be ditched, for President Trump to say, no, the negotiations have not been far enough along and they're not deep enough. You heard the comments from the US trade representative after the last round that the two sides were very far apart and, frankly, were not on the same page.
Well, probably, I mean, we're doing our best. We're doing our best in Mexico and Canada to continue to modernize this agreement. We think it's very positive for the three countries. We will not be the ones getting up from the table. We will continue to try to negotiate. But yes, we're prepared. Why is that? Because precisely because of NAFTA, we have become a very competitive economy. We're the 6th largest producer of cars in the world and the 4th largest exporter. We're also the 6th most important supplier of supplies for the aerospace industry. We have become very competitive, and we're willing to continue to compete with the United States, to collaborate, but also to go some other parts of the world and sell our goods and services.
If we take a look at Mexico's back to tourism, that's your area, what is the one thing you now need, besides more tourists, obviously, what is the one thing you now need? Is it more infrastructure spending? Is it a greater acceptance by government of the importance of tourism? Because the one thing I've seen over many years of covering tourism is that government talks a good talk about it, but your cabinet colleagues don't give you the support necessary always to really have a fully functioning industry to its potential.
Well, that hasn't been my case. I mean, I have been getting all of support from the cabinet people, and what I always stress is not only to pay attention to the budgets of the Ministry of Tourism, but more airports are good for tourism. More roads are good for tourism. Better ports is good for tourism. Less visa requirements is good for tourism. So, I mean, there's many things that other sectors and other ministries work that imply benefits for tourism. So I have had a very good dialogue and collaboration, and we're working very well. Again, we passed from number 15th most visited country in the world 5 years ago to number 8 today.